We are victims of terrorism here, sadly. Don't forget it. And so when Interpol and the FBI pounce on these clowns, that's one of the main reasons why. We are victims of terrorism. Home the importance of why I feel that Interpol and our FBI and our military police and our U.S. Marshal Service are all going to work together to end this sooner than later. It's hard to admit. It's hard to admit as an American citizen. I mean, people think that we're a victim of terrorism on 9/11, okay? Whoever thought we would be victims of terrorism at the hands of our own government, our own elected officials, or supposedly elected official, this orange clown and his group are terrorizing the American public. And what is terrorism? What do you even say? How could you even bring up terrorism? Well, terrorism is the use of violence or intimidation against the civilian population for a political gain. Okay? That's terrorism. Otherwise, it would just be violence and hurting. But it's terrorism because it is against the civilian population using violence and intimidation against the civilian population for political gain. That makes it terrorism. Terrorism, right? What is it? You're intimidating people, right? You're using violence or intimidating them. So what's intimidation? Intimidation is making someone timid, quiet, pensive, frightened. How do you do that? You threaten them. You're threatening them to either take action or deter them from taking action. That's intimidation. Causing fear and freezing people. They're intimidated. They don't act. Or you want them to act in a certain way. That is intimidation. And I want to read out a list of synonyms of intimidation. And I want to see if any of these hit home with you. And then tomorrow I want to talk about, while this administration is intimidating us and terrorizing us, and there's terrorism here in our country because of it. We're all victims of terrorism now by the hands of our own officials. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Rubio, Tom Horman. These are all people intimidating us. You have J.D. Vance going over and throwing crappy words at the NATO alliance, and then they leave, and he's intimidating people globally, and he's intimidating us here locally and nationally, here in our country. So I'm going to read these words, and if something is this to you, it's intimidating to you. Okay? And see if this any hits home with you. And then I'll briefly touch what these words meant to me when I was writing them down, these synonyms of intimidation. What made me feel when I saw these words? What did I feel was intimidating about these words? When something is frightening, menacing, terrifying, scaring, alarming, terrorizing, cowering, subduing, daunting, unnerving, threatening, domineering, browbeating, bullying, or pressuring, that is intimidating. It's intimidation. And if it's intimidation, here in 2025 in the United States of America, if you are feeling intimidated, you are a victim of terrorism. We are a victim of terrorism. Okay? Frightening. What frightened you in the past month? I'll tell you what frightened me. Is the term frightening. Each word is a little different, right? What's different from making something feel subdued is something different from making you feel browbeaten is something different from frightening you. What frightened me was when they prematurely removed the National Nuclear Safety Administration people. I found that moment very frightening. And it was 2 days, but it was very frightening to me that our nuclear arsenal was unguarded because of the negligence of the people that he's put in power. Victim of terrorism. If we're frightened, we're victims of terrorism because we're victims of intimidation. Menacing, being a climate denier. is menacing to me. When you want to frack, 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 dig, 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 drill, 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 I find that behavior very menacing. Terrifying. The fact that Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense and Patel is trying to run our FBI now, that's terrifying. To me. Scaring. What's scary to you? Scary to me is removing safety inspectors from food preparation, from transportation industry. Removing all these inspectors makes everything very unsafe for us, we the people. What's alarming? How about going after our allies and embracing Russia? That's very alarming. Terrorizing. Letting out 1,500 convicted felons who bum rushed the Capitol, letting them free. That's domestic terrorism. It's terrorizing us. One guy was just arrested the other day in Washington, D.C., going after a police officer who he harmed, calling him names, following him to the elevator. He was rearrested, but that's how emboldened these people are. That's domestic terrorism. Cowing. We're not cowering, but there are people who do cower around him. Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, all the other kiss butts, they're all cowering to him. They're being terrorized, they don't even know it. Subduing someone, which is to make them quiet, reflective, depressed, somber, low-spirited, downcast, and sad. We've all been subdued. We're all victims of intimidation. Therefore, we're victims of terrorism. To feel that life is daunting, everything's a struggle. It's intimidation. Threatening. Tom Horman threatening Boston, saying he's going to come there and bring hell with him. It's intimidation. It's terrorism. And then, of course, domineering, browbeating, bullying, and pressuring. Who hasn't he done that to? And the administration done that too. His press secretary is a bully and a browbeater. Donald Trump going after the governor of Maine the other day in a governor's meeting, called her out in public and browbeat her, tried to pressure her. It's all intimidation. It's a form of terrorism. We are victims of terrorism, and it's for a purpose. It's for political gain. And on the other side, he's doing these actions to us, and there's people that benefit from this intimidation and terrorism